I'm not going to bubble wrap it. What's happening is not good. Now, will it continue? Will we find a bottom and then it'll start to go back up? I hope so.
The markets are down about 8% in just 2 days, and I'm getting all kinds of reaction from businesses, farmers in Wisconsin that are highly concerned about what's happening. So those are the facts.
Yeah, those are the facts, and at least a couple of Republican senators can point that out. Actually, slightly more than a couple. We have a third. I guess that's progress. Rand Paul has also been speaking out against it. In fact, he wrote an op-ed for Fox titled "Terminate the Trump Tariffs Before It's Too Late." It's pretty clear, and it reads in part, "Tariffs are not just bad for American families or the national economy. Tariffs are also bad for Republicans. The McKinley tariff of 1890 caused such a spike in prices that the Republican Party lost nearly 100 seats in the House. And by the end of the next election, the House, the Senate, and the White House were all in Democratic hands." And of course, we saw a version of that in the first Trump term, and he hadn't even totally tanked the economy to get to that point. So I understand why Rand Paul would be a little bit worried here, particularly when they're not hypothesizing about something that could maybe happen in a week or a month or in a year. We're watching it every moment. As of just today, stocks dropped for the second straight day. The Dow Jones was down another 2,200 points, or about 5.5%. The drop ended the worst trading week since March 2020. I don't know why they mark March 2020. Was anything big happening then? I don't really remember that time. Maybe there was something significant that affected the economy. But the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 also closed down 5.8% and 5.9%. And I want everyone to remember, while this week has been devastating for the stock market, it's not like the year so far has been great. We've already had minor shocks every other time Trump implied he'd be doing tariffs like this. So far, Jake, the numbers don't look great.
Yeah, and they're never gonna look great because this is dumb. So we'll explain why it's dumb. The question isn't whether to tariff or not the tariff. The question is, how do you do it? And this ain't it. And so I'll tell you what we'll talk about what went wrong and what I think is going to happen next, because this is untenable. They can't have the stock market drop 1,000 to 2,000 points every day and be like, "No, we're fine. We're fine. Nothing's wrong here." And we have a poll for you guys. Were you expecting Republicans to come out against these tariffs? Yes or no? That's in the live chat. Curious what you guys think. That's an easy one for me. I said that a lot of people on the right would come out against Trump in 1,000 different ways in this term. I was told that that was impossible, and no Republican would ever come out against Trump on any issue. Interesting. Well, looks like there's plenty. John.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for them to have stopped him the way they did the first term. That would be great. They were actually largely successful there, but yeah, maybe it's the beginning of something. I mean, you've got 3 now. That's something potentially you can build on, especially as the stock market gets worse, maybe.
Yeah, and just look, there's more. There's like among the influencers, there's Dave Portnoy and many others. We'll get to all that too. But what John just said there is super important. That's why you jump back in. Look, guys, in a little bit, I'm gonna tell you guys about why things are so off the rails now versus the first Trump term where there was 1,000 things wrong, but the economy didn't collapse in the first 3 years. What's the difference maker? That's in this story.
Yeah.
So, John, go ahead.
Well, we will later get to people who are speaking out in support of this, but a lot of those, even those that you might have expected would, because that's kind of like what their job is, aren't choosing to do so. And we're gonna begin with, I think, a perfect example of that, which is Scott Jennings.
He firmly believes in it, and he firmly believes in making this bet. I mean, he's betting his presidency on this issue, which is probably the most closely and longest held political and economic belief that he's ever had. He's been talking about doing it for 40 years.
You think it's a good bet?
We'll find out. If it's right, it'll be the ballsiest thing that ever happened, and if it's wrong, the consequences will fall on one shoulder.
Yeah, except no. I mean, yeah, sure, I guess they'll fall on his shoulders, but his shoulders are barely gonna be staying upright for that much longer. It's not really much of a risk when it's his presidency, sure, but it's his last term that he can serve. And he probably won't survive past that point for much longer. The consequences are gonna fall on tens of millions of shoulders. They already are. People's 401ks being decimated, businesses going under, people losing their jobs. Scott Jennings, even here where he's exercising a little bit of independence from Donald Trump, still seems to only have eyes for Donald Trump and not for the many people, the many conservatives, the many Trump voters who are going to and indeed are already losing everything thanks to Donald Trump. You could spin it as he did, as ideological attachment to the idea of tariffs. I might present it as the increasingly deranged, deluded deteriorating brain of a guy who doesn't know to listen to all of those around him telling him it's a terrible idea. But either way, that's Scott Jennings, and we'll discuss in a sec. We're gonna go to a few more people on Fox Business and CNBC who normally are pretty defensive towards Donald Trump, maybe not in this case.
Are in disbelief and don't think that Peter Navarro, for instance, who's a very fine man, or a Besson wouldn't go in, maybe a Ludnick wouldn't go to the president and say, look, we don't really want to crash. You don't want to be as hard line. Maybe you do the TikTok deal. Maybe you say, look, but here's a way to cure things, which was the way that that NVIDIA did with Taiwan. But they could have a crash. I don't see why not. I mean, why would you buy stocks?
Let us hope that the cooler heads do prevail. When time shall tell, and eventually the cooler heads will prevail. But for right now, cooler heads are not prevailing. Right now, angry heads are prevailing, and right now, circumstances are prevailing that sends stock prices much lower than where they are right now.
What the market is worried about is what's going to happen in the future. Who's going to hire now in this uncertain environment? Yeah. I think people are very, very concerned. And that's why, again, we need to get to work. We need to act on negotiating now. We need to get tax cuts now. We need to get deregulation now to make a difference before this gets out of control the other way.
Again, literally handing billions of dollars to the richest people. What is that going to do to stimulate the economy at this point? People aren't going to have money. They're not going to be buying anything. Thus, less products will be sold, less services will be rendered. Jobs will have to be cut as a result of it. And thanks to the reciprocal tariffs, which we're already seeing, like from China, 34% on the things we normally sell to them, jobs are going to be lost. Elon Musk having an extra $20 billion isn't going to save the economy. And so obviously they're going to spin it the way they are. But it's pretty clear from Fox and from the business network there that they don't see much good coming out of this in the short term.
Yeah, so it's, first of all, think about it from China and other folks we trade with, their perspective. So a lot of times, some of the smaller players and even some mid-sized players panicked over the tariff threats in the first term and in the beginning of this term, right? Now they're not doing that at all. They're doing the exact opposite. They're like, oh, you want to play? Okay, then we'll go reciprocal on you. Because remember, Trump didn't go reciprocal. He did this weird calculation where you take the trade deficit and divide it by imports. It's made up, like ludicrous. That's why the numbers are so freaking high. So China's like, oh, okay, so you went nuclear, then I'll go nuclear. And they did. And then that crashed the market worse because it was like a tiny bit of recovery until China said, we'll match what Trump's doing. Now, it's not like the Chinese can't see our stock market. They see it crashing. It's not like they can't see our media. They see everybody panicking, right? So then they double down on this, which is logical. Then Europe was gonna do the same thing. Canada, Mexico are gonna do the same thing. The whole world's gonna do the same thing. So you think they're gonna cave into Trump now? No, they got him on the ropes. But more than that, they have us on the ropes because this was dumb. So we've talked about this now for over a week. You do targeted tariffs if you want to build up manufacturing. You do it particular to an industry. You do it knowing that you're going to have to do it for 2, 3, 5, or 10 years, right? And if you really are planning to do these type of nuclear tariffs for 5 to 10 years, there'll be no economy left. There'll be no global trade left. This is mental. It makes no sense at all. So I'm going to get to why they're doing this in a second. So now, since they don't have any incentive to compromise at all, how are we going to get out of this mess? So there's folks on the right who really believe, no, everything's going to be fine, totally fine. Like the markets, guys, the stock market's not the relevant thing. Stock market for me is a leading indicator in this case, because when the stock market does that, a lot of people are going to get fired because companies don't have as much money anymore, and it's not targeted towards a bad guy industry. Oh, like the health insurance companies, their whole business model is to rob us. So if they got hit on the stock market, I wouldn't care at all, right? I'd want to have a transition plan for the people who work in that industry, right? That's what thoughtful people do. That's what people who believe in strategy do, right? They don't just go in like, oh, let's do tariffs for everyone, like at 1,000,000%. Right, and so you right wingers, you really think that he's going to keep these tariffs for the whole 4 years? I can't believe you guys think that. That's not even close to true. He'd be lucky to keep it for 4 days. And the reason why we're showing you clip after clip of Republicans saying this is because that's the whole freaking plan. Like they just want to they're worried that this panic is too bad and that there's going to be irreversible damages, John is saying, because the plan was to hold these stupid tariffs into place until they pass the tax cuts. And after they rob us of now, it used to be 4.5, now it's $5.5 trillion. Then they're gonna go, oh yeah, we got what we wanted out of the tariffs, and everybody caved into us based on nothing, based on like, oh, Panama said they'd give us a needle and a thread back. We win, and Trump won, so he's gonna withdraw the tariffs. There's no way these tariffs stay in place for years. You can quote me on that, you can bring back this video. If they stay in place for 2-3 years, rub it in my face. If they work, oh my God, it should be totally discredited. And say, okay, 3 years from now, you see that, Cenk? The market rebounded, the economy was great, we rebuilt manufacturing, he kept it in place and it worked. If it did, then I don't know anything and you shouldn't watch, okay? There's a 0% chance that's going to happen. I think that there's only a microscopic chance these tariffs last past the tax cuts. So I'm super on the record on that. I'm all over the place. The right wing is like, you're nuts, no way, man. They're doing it for our best interest. Yeah, okay, I know. You know what they think about the tax cuts now? I mean, this is a different topic, but it's super related to this. They think, these poor guys, they think they're getting their income tax eliminated. Tons of them think that the income tax for people making under $150,000 is going to be eliminated. That's what they think the $5.5 trillion is for. Oh, they're gonna have a rude awakening. None of that is gonna happen. Take it to the bank. You're gonna eliminate income tax for people under $150,000. What planet are you guys on? Why would you believe such insanity? So, okay, but the reason why I'm so confident is because we're all gonna see with our own eyes. You're gonna get to see where the majority of those tax cuts go. You're gonna get to see if they really lower corporate taxes again to a ridiculously low 15%. You're gonna see with your own eyes. Are they really in it for the average guy and they're gonna take down the taxes for the average guy, but they're gonna increase taxes on the rich? They have that theory. You think they're gonna increase taxes on the rich? That's what you think. Okay, I love you guys. No, that's not gonna happen. So look, everybody gets diluted, everybody's in their own bubble. So, but why this, like, okay, here, two quick things that I gotta get to Yaz, but in fact, I'll save these. Let me save these, why this is happening and some of the more right-wing reaction. But Yaz, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think I know what you're about to get at, Cenk, but I don't understand, first of all, why anyone would elect a hot-headed president in the hopes that cooler heads will prevail. Because what if that hot head gets his way and if those cooler heads are too cool to actually do anything about it? But there is so much to unpack here with these tariffs. First, whatever reasons Trump or his Republican supporters are giving us right now, all these talking heads on Fox News as to why Trump is imposing these tariffs, I'm gonna say I think they're just straight up lying to us about what their actual motives are here. He's not doing this because he thinks it'll make America great in the long term, whenever that is. He's not doing it because he wants manufacturing jobs to come back to this country, because as Cenk just pointed out, if that was his actual goal, he would have gone about all of this very differently in a much more strategic and targeted way. And he's not doing it because he thinks the US will somehow that we're getting the raw end of all these deals that we have with our allies and that we're being bullied by them. He's doing this because of what he said on Truth Social, because he and other billionaires will make money off of this, right? The wealth will flow upward further, even more than it already is, while the rest of us continue to struggle to buy our groceries. The stock market looks bad now. Well, maybe, but not if you're a billionaire. It's an investor's market, right? This is a great time to get rich in this country. That's what he said on Truth Social. What he didn't say is that it's a great time to get rich in this country if you are already rich. It's a great time to get even more rich than you already are. And keep in mind, he's only just announced these tariffs and the markets are already responding. Not only that, but other nations are responding. They're announcing retaliatory tariffs against us. So it will be interesting to see if he just cancels everything before any of it actually goes into effect, because what he's doing is manipulating the markets, and he's doing so on a very irresponsible global scale, to the point that there's so much uncertainty, nobody knows how to proceed with anything. Also, the talking point that we had been hearing about these tariffs up until now from people who are supporting or at least trying to defend the moves of this administration was that Trump was only threatening to issue these tariffs because he was using the threat of tariffs as bargaining chips. We've seen that many Americans who voted for Trump never actually believed that he would go through with the tariffs, and they voted for him because somehow they thought he was going to make their grocery store bill and their how much money they're paying on gas to go down. And they thought that he would use these threats, not the actual tariffs, just the threats, to gain concessions from other countries. Like Mexico was going to block their immigrants from coming from their country into ours. And Canada was finally going to get a hold of all their pesky drug cartels that are, flooding all this fentanyl into the country. But in Trump's other Truth Social posts, we see that he's actually trying to bargain with Jerome Powell. He's not, whatever he's bargaining for, it's not meant or intended to actually benefit the everyday working class American. Meanwhile, Republicans are scrambling to either explain Trump's actions away or break with him entirely, because especially for the Republicans, and especially right now, the economics of this tariff rollout and the politics of it are inseparable. They're directly tied to one another, and Republicans are rightly worried that this could all come back to bite them in a very unsavory place very soon.
Yeah, indeed. By the way, let's note for the record that my curious products that Panama would give back to us was a needle and a thread. Okay, that's what happens when you do a live show. Yeah, maybe 3 empanadas. All right, so to Yaz's point, it's a great time to invest. Yeah, if you're already a millionaire sitting on a lot of cash. Like, are we all in that situation? So yeah, Warren Buffett, by the way, there's another story in the rundown we'll get to where they're pretending that Warren Buffett is on Trump's side and thinks the tariffs are a great idea. Of course, as usual, exact opposite. So Warren Buffett said that he was told a couple of months ago, he's like, oh, I'm withdrawing and going all cash because the tariffs will obviously crash the market. Then I'll come in and buy a lot. That's because he has hundreds of billions of dollars. We don't. Okay,
Speak for yourself.
Okay, well, I don't know. Maybe John's got something I don't know about. All right, so the right wing, the cult, no Trump voter is ever going to break with him. Let's see how that turned out for Dave Portnoy.
It's tariff city. Trump has put his tariffs all over the place. I've been trying to understand them. I don't. Like, it's more a trade deficit tariff to me. Like, hey, we get this much from you and you get this much from us. Let's even that up. Let's get some wacky formula and do tariffs. And everything's in the because of it. I almost tweeted out, Dave, how much are you down right now and today? 7 million. I'm down $7 million in stocks and crypto.
You know what'll break a cult? Losing $7 million in a day. Okay, so, but look, that's my contention was that they are not a cult. I know in 2016, they did not break with Trump. Why? Because they all watch Fox News. They all watch the same media. Now, if you're a Trump supporter watching Dave Portnoy, are you super happy with Trump? No, it doesn't look like you are, right? So that's why none of this is going to last. In the old days, maybe it had a chance of lasting despite the economic meltdown because Fox News would just enforce a talking point. No, everything is great. An economy is better when it crashes, right? And people do believe that. But nowadays, even certainly independents and a lot of right wingers are going, no, I saw on an independent show or I saw on a bro show or I saw on another show that it turns out the economy is not great when it crashes. It's the opposite. Okay, so last thing from me for now. So why this crazy plan? Like he had a bunch of crazy ideas in the first term. He thought we should increase our nuclear arsenal tenfold, which would have literally bankrupted the country, right? And so of course, they didn't do that because that's absurd, right? Well, there's an explanation in the Washington Post, which is that he's not listening to anyone. And there are no establishment figures, there are no other figures, there are no one but Trump fans and Trump supporters inside the Trump administration now, because they all what was the number one litmus test that they had? Not if you're a right wing, not if you're a populist, not if any of those things. The only litmus test was, are you a Trump loyalist? So now when Trump says something, no one questions him. So they explained that in the first term, they had a lot of debates back and forth, and they could stop a lot of things. Now, what did I tell you guys? In the first term, the establishment, as much as I hate them, were the brakes in the car for Trump. They were actually helpful in the Trump administration, okay? A rare case where they're helpful. Without the brakes in the car, Trump's a moron. Like that didn't change overnight. I did this great thing where there's somebody says, this actually happens regularly. What would you know, man? You're a stupid podcaster. Trump's a genius who went to Wharton. People who went to Wharton know. I'm like, inconvenient fact for you. I also went to Wharton. So now we're at a stalemate, okay? We're both geniuses. No, we're not geniuses, okay? The guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. His dad got him into Penn, okay? Please. He has no earthly idea what he's doing. So here's the quote, senior White House official. In the first term, everyone thought they were president. So what that means is like they were weighing in with their opinions and facts and information. Well, we got rid of those idiots, okay? And they explain that like they would propose a tariff, his staff would, which is what they're supposed to do for every particular country. And then Trump would go, no, I want this one. And there'd be no more debate. And that's it, that's the tariff. And so before the Rose Garden, they had this big long meeting, JD Vance, et cetera. Did anybody question Trump? No, they're all too scared to question Trump because the only thing he wants is loyalty. If you question him, he's gonna fire you. So they're like, oh yes, sir, nuclear tariffs that would destroy the world economy. That's a great idea, Mr. President. And when you have a bunch of idiots like that next to the chief idiot, this is what's going to happen. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.